Hello YouTube, and welcome to the DBTGamer Show, episode 207. Before I start the review today, I need to say something. At the end of March, the Nintendo Wii shop channel will close its points service. So that'll be the last day that you can actually add points onto the channel and download games. So if there's anything you want to download or add money for and then download it, do it before this month's end, because you won't be able to anymore. You'll be able to download games until the end of the year. Nintendo, this is the weirdest setup ever. You either stop the service and then stop it altogether, or whereas you're basically just half stopping it and doing it the weird way. Anyway, to commemorate the fact that the Wii shop channel is closing down and give it a good send-off for all the years of entertainment, I'm going to review one of my favourite WiiWare games. This game is also available on Steam, but in this review I will be showing only the WiiWare version, because that's the only version I own. The game I'm going to talk about today is Lit. So, let's get started. Let's start with the story for Lit. Overall, I think the story is good. One day, Jake is at school with his girlfriend. Jake goes to lunch, whilst his girlfriend goes to the bathroom to make herself look beautiful. And Jake gets his lunch, and he sits down and he's waiting for his girlfriend. He's thinking, she's taking a long time, I wonder where she could be. So, like a good boyfriend, Jake heads back to the classroom to see if his girlfriend's alright. And he notices all this black fog on the floor. He's like, maybe the drama department that left the smoke machine on. Nothing to worry about. So he goes into the classroom, and the classroom is completely empty. His friends were in there playing cards, but they've all gone. So this is really odd, because the cards are still on the table. And then the phone rings. Ding-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding. Ring, 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 ring. Jake answers the phone. It's his girlfriend screaming for help, and he has to go rescue her. So he searches the classrooms one by one and looks for his girlfriend. That's the basic story for the game. And as you go through the game, some of the teachers or students of the game get turned into monsters, and you may have to defeat these monsters with your flashlight or your torch or some lights in the game. So overall, it's a very creepy sort of game. And now let's go on to the graphics of the game. Well, the graphics for this game, I have two opinions. The WiiWare version, I think they're good. It's a nice sort of graphic novel comic book style. Now, as for the Steam version, it's not that I don't like them. I just prefer the WiiWare version in terms of the graphics. In the Steam version, it's got its sort of chibi art style, and just personal preference, I prefer the Wii style. But both of them are good, and they do their job. Controls for the game. Well, the controls for the Wii version, they're good. The pointer, it does a lot of things in the game. It lets you use your torch or flashlight for you Americans out there. It lets you aim cherry bombs and also aim your slingshot. And if you want to do certain action in the game, you may have to use motion controls. Now, the motion controls, they aren't really that complex, and there isn't really much to them. And they're very precise, and they work 9 times out of 10. Shine the torch, you just point at things whilst pressing and holding A. To throw a cherry bomb, you just move your arm in like an arc, and it works. It's shake the Wii remote to make the torch recharge, and then aim and then press the A button to fire the slingshot. Arrow buttons on the Wii remote move the camera. B button changes items. Analog stick on the nunchuck moves Jake. C button interacts with objects, lamps, spotlights, tellies, lamps that move. God, they're annoying. And the Z button aims a slingshot, and then you press A to fire. So overall, the controls work good. Now, as for the Steam version,
Jake, it's Rachel. Oh my god, I can't believe you're alive. What is going on? The entire school's dark and these things are crawling all over the place. Crazy, huh? Come and find me. We need to get out of here.
It's all in a top-down sort of perspective, and from what I can tell, the controls do work good, but I'm pretty sure there's no first-person mode, which does break the immersion of the game somewhat. Music of the game. Overall, it's good. It's rather creepy, so it definitely sets up that creepy haunted school sort of atmosphere. Gameplay for the game. Gameplay for this game, it's great. It's a puzzle horror game, and it's just a really fun game. Overall, the game will take in between 10 and maybe 15 hours to beat, depending on how good you are at puzzle games. There were a few times where I had to go on the internet to actually figure out how to do certain levels, but that may vary depending on how good you thought these games are. There's also an extra mode called Dark Mode, which after you beat the main story mode, this gives you a time limit to defeat each room, and that makes it a little bit more challenging, because if you run out of time, the entire room goes dark and you die, and you never save your girlfriend and you die. So overall, gameplay is good. Now let's move on to the good stuff about this game. The good stuff about this game is as follows. My first thing is the story. The story for the game is good. I really like the story. The next thing I really liked now is the phone calls. Throughout the game, when you play the game, you will hear a phone call, and you have to run over to the telephone and press the C button to answer the phone, and you get in between 3 and 5 rings depending on which level you're playing on, and you have to pick up the phone in time and listen to your girlfriend's what's happening to her so you can find her. Now, if you don't answer every phone call in the game, you will get the bad ending. I've never gotten the bad ending because it's pretty easy to reset the level and just try again by just going into the menu by pressing the plus button or the pause button on the Xbox controller or your preferred Steam controller. Throughout the review, I have recorded some of these conversations between Jake and his girlfriend for you guys to listen to. I thought it was one of the best parts of this game. Now let's check out the items of the game. Throughout the game, there are several tools which you can use to help you get through the school and be reunited with your special someone. You have a torch. The torch, it isn't really that useful, to be honest. It's mostly there to plan out your path. Now, your torch can attack enemies.
Are you close, Jake? I have to move. It's not safe here anymore. Something grabbed my leg and I stabbed it with my pen. It didn't bleed though. Just ate my pen. Trippy, huh? You need to hurry before I get eaten.
You can shine the light in their face and just burn them. But you can only do this once on like a boss or something. Because once you, let's say if you shine your torch on them and they'll go, ah, my face, it's melting, no! Once they've got over it, they'll literally come up to you and punch you in the face and eat you. So if you're going to use the torch to damage a boss, make sure that you've either got an escape route planned or that's your last hit that you need to do. Because your torch is basically your last line of defense. Other items of the game, you've got a slingshot, which can be used to smash windows and create paths of light for you to walk across, or paths of light that the boss can run into and go, ah, no, my face, no, I'm melting, oh, what a world! And then you've got cherry bombs, which can also be used to smash windows to also melt their faces. And you can walk across the paths of light to exit the room. You can also use cherry bombs and slingshots to break computers and also activate motion sensor lights. So you have a variety of tools at your disposal to use. There's also a TV remote which can turn on computers, which can be used to make your way across the room. And you can turn on the computers accordingly so you can make your way out. And finally, there's the different types of lamps. You've got your regular lamp, which just turns on and off. You've got your moving lamps, which move, which can be really annoying because if they move too fast, you can step into the black and it's going to get eaten by the floor monsters. That's happened to me several times. And then there's the motion sensor, which move when you move into the, which turn on when you move into their motion sensing range, or they turn on when you throw a cherry bomb at them, or you use a slingshot. Next, let's talk about also on the WiiWare shop. There is a demo of this game if you wish to try out the game before you buy it. The demo won't take long to download, and it's worth trying before you buy. And it's nice that Way Forward thought of that stuff. In the demo, you only get the first 5 rooms and the first boss. Since I've mentioned bosses, let's talk about the bosses themselves. Bosses themselves, they're a really fun challenge to figure out, and you have to sort of time your resource in the room and manage your resources so that you actually become victorious. What I like to do is, when I'm facing these things, is turn on some lights, you know, hit it with a few of the lamps, maybe smash a window or two and hit it with some window light, and then for the final hit, eat torch, and then it disintegrates. Throughout the game, there are some rooms may have multiple objectives depending on how you want to play the game. The game has 2 endings, a bad ending and a good ending. The good ending occurs when you find every phone call, and they're easy enough to find, but you may have to do rooms more than once if you want to get them all. And the other objective is just to escape the room. And I suppose sometimes there may be a boss, but it's usually just either a boss, and then the level's over.
So dark now. I can't see those things, but I hear them everywhere. Crawling in the shadows, scratching on the windows like some low-budget horror movie where they can't afford to show the monster, you know? I hope I never see them. I just want to get out of here.
Or you have to escape the room, or you have to escape the room and get the phone call. So that's room objectives. One of the mechanics that I really liked in this game, which stopped the game from being too easy, was the light bar. At the top of your screen, you'll have a thing called a light bar. The light bar basically governs how many things you can have turned on in the classroom at once before the fuse box explodes and the entire room is covered in darkness and you die. So let's say if you turn on too many lamps, the fuse box will explode and you'll die. Let's say if you turn on too many computers, it'll explode. So you've got to manage the amount of lamps that you need on in order to escape the room and solve the puzzles. And you can go back to certain lamps and turn it on off as many times as you like. Major tips, just use the minimum amount of lamps to escape the room. Another thing that I like about the game is after you beat the main story, you can actually switch roles and you get to play as Jake's girlfriend, and you have to go save Jake, which is it's only a character model change, but it's a nice little extra. And that's all the good stuff I'm going to talk about. Now on to my complaints. Okay, now that I've shown off all my footage for the review, let's go on to my complaints about Lit. Overall, it's a really good game and I really enjoyed playing it, and it's really difficult for me to actually complain about this game because it's just so well crafted by Way Forward Studios. But if I had to complain, in the later levels of the game, it does get rather difficult and rather cryptic in the way that the puzzles are designed and how you want to get across the room in time so that you can grab the phone and listen to your girlfriend's message. so you can find her. And it also gets rather hard when it comes to getting across the room and getting to the next level or defeating the boss. So the only complaint is I partly wish that certain rooms were a little bit less difficult or a little bit somewhere easy to figure out. Now, do I have any complaints with the Steam version? Well, I haven't really played much of the Steam version, but from what I can tell, the Steam version itself, it's all top-down. There's no first-person mode, from what I can tell, which is a little bit of a disappointment. And also, I think I prefer the art style in the WiiWare version a lot more. In the Steam version, they went for this sort of chibi anime style, whereas in the WiiWare, it's like a comic book, which is what I definitely prefer. But overall, both versions of Lit are good games, and they're definitely well worth buying, definitely worth playing, and also they're super cheap. On the WiiWare, it's 1,000 Wii points, which is roughly in the UK around about £7. Now, for you Americans, it may be slightly more. And as for the Steam version, it's less than £5, which may be slightly different for you Americans, depending on exchange rate and all that sort of thing. Anyway, my rating for Lit is a 4 out of 5. Overall, good game. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye!